Hello, friends, and welcome back to another fun, yes, fun episode of Sex Here and Now. As always, I'm your host, Matt Lachman. I'm a licensed clinical therapist and AASECT certified sex therapist. You ever sit across from someone and just think, I know you have kinky sex. I know you like to be spit on, you little freak. I know you like to be degraded. And yes, I know you love to be pissed on. No? Just me? Okay. Well, I typically don't think all of that so specifically or explicitly, but sex does come across my mind probably more often than the average person. As you may know, if you have been an avid listener of this podcast, I grew up Catholic and because of that, started engaging in sexual activity in grade school. I don't have to tell any of you that there's a direct correlation between promoting sex negativity and abstinence and a person engaging in sexually related activities. We are sexual creatures, even as 10-year-olds. And more than that, we're curious. So maybe that is where my curiosity started. But as I've gotten older, I wonder more and more about how many of you just need permission to raise your kink flag and start moving out of the vanilla and into the dungeon. Now, before some of you clutch your pearls and start imagining leather masks, giant whips, and medieval torture devices, let's slow down for a second. One of the biggest misconceptions about kink is that it has to be extreme. It doesn't. Kink is simply anything that falls outside of what a particular culture considers typical sexual behavior. So, yes, more than just kissing and missionary. It isn't a diagnosis, it isn't a pathology, it isn't evidence that someone is broken or traumatized. It's simply another way that human beings experience pleasure. And here's the funny part. I think a lot more of you are kinky than you even realize. Do you like having your hair pulled? Welcome to the club. Do you enjoy being pinned against the wall for a kiss? Boy, that's a power dynamic. Do you enjoy wearing lingerie because it makes you feel powerful? That's a form of erotic expression. Do you like dirty talk, roleplay, blindfolds, being told exactly what to do, being the one telling others what to do? Congratulations. You're dipping your toes into kink, and I am here to hand you your welcome bag. Some people hear the word kink and immediately imagine the far end of the BDSM spectrum. But kink is a massive umbrella. Under that umbrella are thousands of different interests, many of which millions of people every single day enjoy. In fact, research constantly shows, yes, research, this is an educational podcast, listener. Research shows that fantasies involving power exchange, restraints, dominance, submission, voyeurism, and other forms of kink are remarkably common. Depending on the study, somewhere between 40 and 70% of adults report having had at least one kink related fantasy during their lives. And many people have experimented with some form of kink or another kink related activity like BDSM or whatnot, even if they never labeled it as such. Several studies have found that people who practice BDSM tend to score similarly to, and sometimes even better than, the general population on measures of psychological well being. Holla! They often report strong communication skills, greater awareness of consent, clearer boundaries, and higher levels of relationship satisfaction. If you are going to drip hot wax on my genitals, Greg, I am going to be pretty explicit as to who, what, where, when, why, and how. Healthy kink requires conversations that many couples never have. What do you want? What don't you want? What's off limits? How do we know if something isn't working? How do we check in afterwards? Those aren't just kink conversations. Those are healthy conversations that we all should be having. I sometimes joke that BDSM practitioners actually become relationship experts because you can't safely tie someone up without first learning how to communicate. Of course, like anything that's involving sex, there are unhealthy ways to engage with kink. The thing I love most about kink, though, isn't really necessarily the activities themselves. It's what kink gives people the permission to do. It gives people permission to stop performing. It gives them permission to stop trying to fit into someone else's script for what sex is supposed to look like, to show up in their bodies and to admit that maybe what genuinely excites them isn't what they were taught they were supposed to enjoy. For some people, that's a blindfold. That people would be me. For others, it's dressing up. For someone else, it's consensual power exchange. Hi, me again. For another person, it's simply admitting that they love making out for an hour before taking their clothes off. Your kink doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It just has to be consensual, safe, and meaningful for you and the people you're sharing it with. So if you've been telling yourself for years, that's weird, I probably shouldn't want that, maybe try asking yourself a different question. Who taught you that it was weird? Was it based on evidence or was it based on shame? Because shame has stolen enough of our sexuality. It has stolen enough from our sex lives. You get one life, one body, one opportunity to experience intimacy in ways that generally bring you joy. So if you've been curious about buying that blindfold, having the conversation about kink, if you've wanted to explore being more dominant or submissive, if you've always wanted to visit a dungeon, attend a munch, try sensation play, wear leather, experiment with roleplay, or simply admit that you love your partner whispering filthy things in your ear, maybe it's time to stop worrying about what everyone else thinks. Life is far too short to spend it pretending vanilla is your favorite flavor when you've secretly been craving Rocky Road the entire time. Be curious, be intentional, be safe. And most importantly, give yourself permission to explore the parts of your sexuality that have been waiting patiently to be discovered. You only get one shot at this life. You might as well make it delicious. Sex Here and Now is written and recorded by me, Matt Lachman. For more resources, education, or support, you can find me on all social platforms at Cleveland Sex Therapy. Thanks for being here, and as always, stay curious.